We are live from Hawaii. Welcome to the first live stream of April. How is everyone doing? If you're just joining us, say hello in the chat. Did you sail this week? If you did, how was it? I am on Maui and I did sail. I sailed yesterday. It was super windy yesterday. It was like 4.0 weather. The smallest sail I brought with me down to the beach was like a 4.5. So I was very powered up at Kanaha. Hokipa was just too messy. It was big, but it wasn't necessarily too big. It was more that it was just too messy. But anyway, say hi. Let us know. Did you sail? We've got some good topics to go through this week. We had some good activity in the group. Hey, Jorg, Samuel, Dennis, Jeff. Jeff, how did the tax go? Hey, Ragnar. How did the tax go? I like that you're forcing yourself to tack every turn. In addition to forcing yourself to do lots of tacks, one way to improve your tacks is just to sail days that you wouldn't normally sail. Maybe there are days that are 10 knots of wind, no waves, flat, and normally you would not go windsurfing, but those are perfect days for practicing tacks. Hey, Caro, how's the Baltic Sea, and how did the boards feel testing the boards? Hey, Max, Dontavius. 4.0 conditions in Florida. Wow, that sounds windy. Robert was also at Kanaha, but earlier when it was really squally. Hey, Bart. Yeah, it was pretty windy, super windy. It was choppy, but there were some clean ones as well. It was, I had fun. It was not like the most relaxing session because it was so windy and choppy, but it was fun. Yeah, Max, I hope you can get on the water. Bart was snowboarding. That sounds good. Yeah, we're on a good stretch on Maui. So, hey, Rasmus, it's too cold in Europe, is what I'm hearing. All right, so let's get into the coaching. You guys know the drill by now. You can ask me any question in the chat. Put your tips in the chat, questions in the chat. I'll load up the Facebook group and we'll just start going through it and have that discussion. So what else? Do I have any other admin stuff to go over before we jump into this? I still need to come up with dates, clinic dates for the summer for coaching. Something I am going to do fairly soon, so watch this space, is a Tacking masterclass online that will, the format that I'm thinking of doing is 3 seminars of about 2.5 hours, and spread out. My first idea was to do it 2 weeks apart. I don't know if that's too big of a gap between the seminars, but I want some time so that you can get on the water, hopefully. So maybe 1 week apart. I'm not sure, but we're going to do something, a Tacking masterclass with a bit of a different learning format. And so that will be announced everywhere. I'll announce it in the Facebook group, on the live stream, everything. So if that's what you're interested in about improving your tacks or learning how to tack, watch out for that. And yeah, so basically the format will be 3 live seminars with me. That'll be like 2.5 hours, with some, like, I've got my theory on how to tack with different tips and troubleshooting and technique, and then questions and discussion. So it is a bit of back and forth. It's not just a course that's like one way. Hey, Richie. Yeah, Bart, tacking makes such a difference. Jeff was saying that my tip about, here, I can put this on the screen. Tip about grabbing the boom directly with the new front hand made all the difference. Didn't realize I was grabbing the mast. Cool. Nice. Hey, Owen. Facebook user had a good session in Fuerteventura. Mast high. Nice. Cool. Pretty cool. Philip, I don't know who you're asking for photos for. Everyone sounds good. I'd love to hear about see the photos from the Fuerte session. I don't have photos from Kanaha, but sounds good. Hey, Mario, Hans. All right, we've got a good crew here. I'm gonna load up the Facebook group and just get into it. So one of the things that I posted about was harness, and I showed how I wear my harness, which is looser, I'm realizing, than a lot of people. Hey, Mark. Hope you have a good trip in Lanzarote. All right, so let's go through the group. So we've got some more people commenting on this high five thread. I read all of these, like to see it. Jeff, thank you for this. This is good. Competition still going on. Hey, Pierre, Francesco. Okay, so I showed how I ride my harness, and pretty much I wear it super loose. So we can play this video. Turn off the sound. So I don't use the power bar. I just put it on like this, click it in, really easy. And it moves around all over my body. So sometimes I have it off to the side when I'm sailing upwind so I can really twist my body. And this kind of loose harness, I saw a lot of people saying that they're going to try it in the chat or in the comments on the Facebook page. And that's cool. I really think you should try things. I'm not saying that this is right for everyone. It's just good to experiment. Experimenting is really good in windsurfing, especially with these aspects of our gear that we get so used to. So like the harness or the boom height or whatever else. So it's really good to play around with it. However, I think with a sliding hook, it's a lot more difficult to wear the harness so loose. So with the fixed hook, it kind of stays in place. Whereas with the sliding hook, because the hook isn't so well attached to the harness, the hook, when it's so loose, will roll around and kind of flop around. And that might not work. So having the fixed hook here is an advantage. And I actually learned with a sliding hook. So I sailed with a sliding hook for 10 years. And I switched to a fixed hook because I wanted a loose harness. I wanted it to be able to slide around me like this. And I wanted the hook to be more stable. And so I learned how to sail with a fixed hook. And it wasn't such a huge adjustment because I wear the harness so loose that it slides around. So I don't know if I could sail a fixed hook harness that was super tight on me with the hook not moving at all, because I kind of need that hook to move. And I learned that way with the sliding hook. And then now I've adjusted with the fixed hook, but with the sliding harness. And that's sort of my optimum setting. Edwin points out that it enables better abdominal breathing, which is a really good point that I didn't think of. Some really interesting answers in here of what people like, what people are trying. And I think the big takeaway is to remember just to try different things, to experiment with your gear. It's really easy to get stuck in these habits, and then anything different feels weird. And it's really good to play around with it, because even if you don't like what you're experimenting with, that process of experimenting is educational for your body. You're learning as you're experimenting. Your body has to adjust. And then also you learn what you like, what you don't like. It's important to experiment is what I'm saying. And there are different ways to wear the harness than you might realize. So this is an interesting thread in that respect. All right, lots of comments. Moving on. So Basti says, my boom grip suffered on the rocks during the last session. It is still in a saleable condition, but I think I would like to re-grip it myself. Any ideas? What is the best grip to use and where can I get it? So you can buy grips. I ride Chinook booms and they sell the grips. In Northern Europe, you can get them from the Chinook distributor. They're based in Kiel. And the name of their company, what's the name of the company? I'll post it in the thread. I'll post the contact here. And then, yeah, it's pretty cool if you do that. I would love to see that process of what it's like. My guess, I've never done it myself. My guess is that you want to get some hot water, like boiling water, to pour on the boom. And if you're regripping the whole thing, if you're just regripping a section, then maybe it's different. But hot water breaks down the adhesive glue that holds the grip onto the carbon. And so you can then, with the hot water, boiling water, then it can help you to take off the old grip. And then you use contact cement on the boom, on the grip, let it dry, and then put it on. I guess you clamp it. But again, I'm not sure. I haven't done it. So I'd love to hear how this process goes, Basti. And I'll post a link to the Chinook dealer in Kiel because they might be your best bet for getting new grip. Owen says, how do I prevent the harness sliding upwards to my chest? That's a good question. And I don't have force pulling the harness up to my chest. After I posted this and there were all these comments about why does the harness not pull up, and I was paying attention to it when I was on the water, and there isn't a force pulling my harness up. The force of the lines of the sail, it's pulling kind of this way. So there is some upward force. It's not 100% perpendicular with my body, but then the harness, with that force, it just sticks to my body. It's not being pulled up. And maybe that has to do with harness lines. And so maybe if it is being pulled up, it maybe means that your lines are too long. That could be the case. Or too short. Sorry, I misspoke. If it's being pulled up, it might mean that your lines are too short. And how long are the harness lines that you're using? I guess is a question. But yeah, I don't have that pull. It's not really pulling up. And if it comes up a little bit, and sometimes it will come up a tiny bit, but I'm never up to the chest. I mean, my hook is sitting somewhere, sometimes around my belly button or a little bit more. How tall are you, Owen? And if it comes up a little bit, all I have to do is stand up straight, and then it releases the tension from the harness lines, and then the harness just falls down with gravity lower. Owen, how tall are you, and what brand are you using? Here's a cool video about fast hacks. Actually, I didn't watch this video, so this is interesting. So, Cedric, did you make this video? So you didn't make a video, but it's a video that helped you a lot. Let's watch it. Okay, so Owen, so you're wearing, and again, in this discussion, it also depends where your boom is. So Owen's on 32-inch lines. He's 187 centimeters, and he's using Tacking lines. So Jeff, tell us your review before we get into it. I want to hear what you think about the video, and then I'll put it on. So Owen, it depends how high your boom is. So like, where's your boom relative to your body? Is it like your forehead, your shoulders, your nipples, your belly button? Probably not your belly button. So I'm like 175, and I use 28 or 30 Tacking lines. I use 28s on Maui and 30s in Europe for whatever reason. I know that's confusing. But what's interesting is if I use the 28s in Europe, I find I get a really sore back because of the way that the harness is pulling into my back, and the 30s are really comfortable. So you might want to try 34s. I don't know. But also with all of these things, I think you should experiment. You should try new things. But if you're have something that works, give a looser harness or whatever it is a try, see how it is. I think you should definitely try it. But then if you don't like it, just go back to what you're doing that you like. You know, I'm not preaching gospel. It's not dogma. Like there are things in the coaching that are like that for me that I say, okay, if you're going to have to do it this way, but most of the things or a lot of the things, there's a flexibility and a personal preference. And so some people will want to ride the harness loose, some people not, and there are advantages either way. All right, so I'm gonna watch this video. Let's see if I can watch it with the sound. Do I need to put in?
The fast tack is a move I undervalued for such a long time. I was always so focused on driving because it was fun and I just didn't really care about the tack. However, in the last couple of years, I found the tack to be such an important skill. Not only is it...
So I agree with that. Tacking is a very important skill. It helps you stay upwind. It helps you turn around quickly. If you're getting into wave sailing, tacking will help you wave sail better. Tacking, if you want to learn a skill when there are no waves, right? So people ask me about practicing bottom turns and cutbacks on flat water. Practice your tacks. If you can get really good tacks, that will help your wave sailing more than pretty much anything else you can do on flat water. And then if you can do the fast tacks, then there are some other exercises we can work on. But getting the fast tacks down goes a long way. All right, let's keep watching.
Great for staying upwind, but once mastered, you can actually plane very quickly after completing the turn. So here are some tips that will turn your current tacks into fast tacks. So tip number 1 is prepping early, specifically with the front hand. There's definitely a running theme here, as with all the maneuvers, preparation is key. One of the things that really helped me whip round a tack was having my front hand right next to the mast.
Okay, so he's teaching it with the front hand moving next to the mast, and that's fine. But the way that I teach it and the way that I tack myself, and I think that the easiest way to tack is to hold on to the mast with this front hand below the boom head. I think it's the easiest way. You have a lot of control over the rig. It's easy to throw the rig around. It's easy for it to transition in your hand. If you're worried about style, don't be. It's better to make a tack than to crash a tack. Like crashing a tack looks worse than grabbing the mast. And if you can do your tacks 100% of the time, grabbing the mast, then you can try going boom to boom. But, I grab the mast. It gives me a lot of control and there's nothing wrong with it. So I really recommend that method. If you're a seasoned tacker and you already have a certain way that you do your hands and you're just working on some fine tuning of different elements of the tack, yeah, keep doing it the way you've been doing it and the way you learned how to do it. But anyway, so this is a point of difference between how I teach the tacks and how Will is teaching.
Some people even go for holding onto the mast with the front hand. I like to think of the preparation as actually getting a head start. So you're trying to get...
Yeah, preparation for all moves is key. And there are different ways that we can prep depending on the move. So you can think about, getting your body set up. You can think about wind up, kind of thinking like a spring for certain moves.
On the other side as quick as possible. So getting your hand in position early will make you faster. When I was practicing, I would often sail a few seconds with my hand in this position before going for the tack. Doing this will also force you to have a lower body position, which keeps you nice and stable. So number 2.
So there's a few little things I disagree about there. Disagree is maybe too strong. I think that he's making good points, but leaving out other details that he might not be conscious of, or maybe because he's such a good sailor doesn't need to be conscious of. One of them is about the speed. So he said trying to get around as quickly as possible. And yes, you do want to get around fairly quickly. You don't want to dawdle. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see with people tacking is they're trying to go too quickly and they're trying to rush the maneuver. There's a from the military that is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I think that really applies to tacks. You don't want to be rushing. You don't want to be hectic. You want to go smooth. You want to go slow. You want to take your time. You don't want to dawdle. You don't want to be hanging out in the middle, but you want to go smooth. And so this is really one of the biggest mistakes that I see with people tacking, is that they're trying to rush it. They're trying to rush to that other side. And in rushing it, their movements are jerky. They're slamming, they're like stomping on the board, becomes unstable, and they fall in because they're not moving smoothly and they're not balanced. And there's one other thing in there as well about going low. And this is quite nuanced about when you're low and when you're standing tall in the tack. And this is something that we'll talk about in the tacking seminar. So if you want to know more, watch out. I'm going to do this tacking masterclass. It'll be a seminar series. We'll do 3 seminars. All right, let's go on.
Wrapping my foot as far around the UJ as I could was a game changer for improving the speed of my tack.
Yeah, I like that. I call this the hook, where you hook that front foot around the mass base.
Once I started doing this, it really felt like I was halfway round without even starting the tack. It also helped me to stay over the center of the board, ensuring I stayed balanced.
Yeah, balance is huge with the tack, staying centered where the float is.
So number 3 is change the way you think about the tack. So when you first learn to tack, you'll tend to turn the board, and as the board turns, you also move slowly around the front until you're on the new side, which is correct. However, when we fast tack, there's a slight difference. We're looking to backwind the sail by swapping sides early and being on the wrong side of the sail before we complete the turn. To do this, it's a case of getting used to the timing. Go too early and you'll struggle to turn through the wind. Go too late and you won't get into a backwinded position. You want to carve the board into the wind, and as soon as you get to the apparent wind angle, that's where you should swap sides.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or about 45 degrees off the true wind angle. So number 4 is looking into the turn. Another running theme in windsurfing is to use your vision to help you. The same applies here with the fast tack. By looking upwind into the turn, you'll get your body in the right place and help you turn smoothly.
Yeah, good tip.
Then as you attempt to swap sides, look at the boom so you can place your hands quickly on the new side. And finally, look back.
So he's saying to look at the boom. That might be useful. But one of the issues that I see as well is looking down too much rather than looking where you're going. And that's also not very good for your balance and the smoothness of the movements. So in general, I like to think of, the hands moving on their own. In your head, you're looking upwind and then you're looking in the new direction.
Up again to regain control. So number 5 is having a lot of speed while
Yes, this is a good tip. Speed is your friend. Now, for wave sailing, you want to be able to tack even when you're not moving, floating. But this is such a good tip for anything in windsurfing. Speed is your friend.
The faster you go, the more stable the board is, and will give you more time to complete the maneuver. Going fast will also keep the sail light in your hands. Keep in mind that the faster you go, the closer the apparent wind will be to the induced wind. Basically, the wind will feel like it's coming more from the front of your board. What this means is that you can actually swap sides sooner than you think, while still holding speed, which will give you more time to adjust the sail as you complete the turn. So those are a few tips to help you with your fast tack. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. But other than that, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Nice. Yeah. So those are my comments. Yeah. But good video. And I want to hear if that video is helpful for you. What is helpful? What about it helps you learn? So cool. Thank you for posting this. So, all right. So Dana's got a nice story. Dana's one of the legends of the West Coast windsurfing scene. Nice to hear you loosened up your harness and had a good session. Sounds good. Oregon Coast is pretty awesome. Yep. Richie's saying you can learn to tack in any condition. Alberto, you say you sheet in too much, you slow down or get catapulted. Are you talking about in the tack, or do you mean in general, or in a wave ride, or in a different move? Let us know a little bit more information about what you mean. I guess you mean in the tacks. Sheet in too much, you're slow down or get catapulted. So I would think that you're not moving your feet. Oh, so you're saying in general. So this is a complicated question because without seeing you sailing, it's really difficult to answer. It might not be about technique. This might be about gear. So gear is hugely important. And if your board is set up in a way that, maybe the straps are too back, I could kind of see making this problem, or depends, or maybe you're too far forward, like really too far forward, too far back, could all kind of create this problem depending on how you're trying to counter that setup. Or maybe it's something with the rigging where maybe you need more downhaul or outhaul, and where the sail is then filling up with too much wind, too high. So it can be a rigging thing. If it's not a rigging thing, you can definitely move your backhands forward. Like when I'm cruising, my backhand is next to my harness lines. And then when I want to cheat in and go or do something, then that hand moves farther back. Otherwise, standing up tall rather than really sitting down can also be good. So you're standing tall and leaning using your body weight against the sail, but not, I think if you're too bent at the knees and like really sitting, that's not a very active position. And so you want to be straighter in your knees, and you're still leaning out against the sail and using your body weight, but you're not really like sitting. Though I do want to say, just an aside, and this isn't for you, Alberto, but this is for everyone else. It's something that I've wanted to mention for a while. When you're unstable, like in the waves where the wind drops, or maybe there's a whitewater, one way to quickly get some stability is just to drop down. So you're out of the harness, even in the harness, you can do this, but just drop down, get super low. And I do this where I'm almost like squatting. Like the boom is like way above my head. My arms are straight. My legs are super bent. And that allows me to just, like a cat or something, have this mega balance on the board. And I do that when, like in gusty wind, when the wind just suddenly dies, or maybe the water under my feet is doing crazy things and I've got to really balance, and just getting super low like that is a really useful strategy. But Alberto, I think we need to see some video or photos. So if you can get a photo for us and post it in the Facebook group, or I don't know if you can post photos in the comments of YouTube, but I want to see a photo or a video, which will really help. Because it's really hard to know exactly what's going on without seeing. It could be that your harness lines are too short. It could be that your boom is too high. It could be something about the technique. This is too general to really know. So I'd make sure your harness lines are long enough. Make sure your sail is rigged with enough downhaul, enough outhaul. Make sure that your mast track is not too far forward. And then, make sure you're standing tall, and then move your backhand further forward. But those are kind of general comments. I've got to see what's going on. All right, let's get back to the group. So Richie says, this week my doctor took some x-rays of my back, and I have the back of a 62-year-old man, but I'm 42. Oh, Richie, sorry to hear that. Is this a problem common with windsurfers? What can you do to improve the situation? I would like to know from other sailors in the group some info. I'm generally healthy, 42 years old, been windsurfing since I was 10, snowboarding. You're a dentist and an amateur guitar player. Both are bad for your back and neck. So one of the things that I really recommend, and I need to listen to this advice as well, is see a good physical therapist as much as you can afford. And so that might be once a year, it might be once a month, it might be once a week. And you want a physical therapist who works with athletes, someone who works with athletes. I find that there are two kinds of physical therapists, ones who work with old people and ones who work with athletes. And you want someone who works with athletes, someone who works with recovering athletes who have worked with, the guy who was training to be the national champion or the world champion and broke his leg, and the doctor said you can't walk again. And this physical therapist trained that athlete back up to win or whatever it is, right? You want someone like that. And they're hard to find, but not impossible. So for example, on Maui, I've got some really good physical therapists that really helped me with my knee recovery. And now my knee is better, but I should see them more about other parts of me, because preventative physical therapy goes a long way. And what was really eye-opening for me is when I was I worked with one of these therapists for about a year, maybe even a little bit more after my knee. And after my knee was healed, we started working on other things. And, she could see areas that could become problems. And she said, okay, you need to get your shoulders to be working differently, or you're going to have a problem in 5 to 10 years with your shoulders. And I don't do enough of that myself. I do a little bit of it, but I need to do more of it. We all need to do more of it. So Richie, everyone else, I really recommend finding a good physical therapist. And again, it's hard to find the right person. You want someone that works with athletes, not someone who, is about helping grandma after she fell down, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's all good, but it's just different expectations, different set of skills, different set of equipment. I found a pretty good therapist, physical therapist in Hamburg as well. And again, I think you do as much as you can afford, whether it's once a year and they give you some exercises that you can do yourself, or once a week, or whatever it is. I think it's really, really worth it. And I need to listen to my own advice, because I haven't been doing that. I was doing that after my knee for a while, but now I've got to pick that back up. The woman that I was seeing actually moved off Maui, but the group that she's part of has a lot of really good physios. So I got to go back there. So Richie's saying in the comments, clarifying a little bit, neck pain, but it's related to my job, and lower dorsal pain. Yeah, ouch. Facebook user saying that he wants some extra downhaul patches instead of key rings. I love the key rings, so I don't think we're going to replace the key rings, but the extra downhaul measures is a good idea. Yeah, we'll see what we can do. I mean, maybe not with every sale, because that's kind of wasteful because they don't come off, but maybe an easier way to get replacements if you need them. Mark is saying that he had some problems with his back, doing lots of stretching now and improving. Yeah, there's so many issues that can affect the back, right? The back is not always just the back. Like if you have tight hips, that affects your back. So I remember in Tenerife, we were looking at different stretches to help relieve back tension, and they have to do with like hip flexors and all kinds of other stretches. Yeah, Rasmus has some good tips too. So he's saying that he had problems with his disc L4, L5, and by lower abdominal training and lowering his harness, it really helps him. So that's cool. All right. I hope you feel better. Okay, this we already looked at. Max is saying that Bowen therapy is amazing. I don't know what that is, but sounds cool. Yurko is saying, what do you guys think about how tight you put the boom on the mast? This is a good question. Oh, I love this question because we never talk about this. I've never, ever heard someone talk about this. I've never talked about it. But of course, this matters? Good question. Thanks, Yurko. So he's saying it's obvious that you don't want it too strong to damage the mast. So if you have, it's pretty hard to get it too tight, but if it is too tight, you can crush the mast with the boom head. And for a 2-hour session, it goes down a little, and he has to adjust it 1 to 3 times. I think maybe it helps to be a little loose in huge and hard jumps landing, so it releases part of the energy. Good question. So generally, I want it pretty tight. And so I want it where I have to press it a fair bit to get it closed. It's not like I have to struggle to open and close the boom head, but I do want to have to press it and hear it snap shut. If it's too loose, then the boom can be moving around, and I don't like that. Yeah, so I agree with Rich that you want it kind of as tight as you can make it without crushing the mast. I mean, you don't want to really struggle to close it, but it sounds like, Yurko, that you can try it tighter from your description, as Tom says. You generally want it to stay where it is without sliding. And sometimes it does slide, like I have my boom pretty tight, but you have a hard landing and it will drop down a little bit. It happens. All right, Jan posted this about bottom turns, and there's a lot of discussion comparing these frame grabs from Morgan. I reached out to Morgan and asked him what he's thinking about between those two pictures. Where's the screenshot? So he says that he moves his backhand back, and then he's sliding it forward rather than pushing it from 1 to 2, which helps load the sail. So he wants to load up the sail. So he's not trying to go neutral. He wants the sail loaded up to help drive him in the turn. And then he wants a lot of power in the sail to help him drive through the turn, which also makes sense. I think this kind of lay down position, like here's a picture of me. You need the side shore, side off wind, and you need something that's pretty clean. It's hard without much of a clean wave. You're more upright if it's more choppy. And then I think you also don't want it too windy. And so you're not really doing this position to spill power. Like, I think that's a common misconception, that you do a lay down like this to spill power out of the sail. If anything, it's the opposite. It's to drive more power from the sail to the board. And so in lighter side off conditions, you can really drive power from the sail to the board this way. But if it's windier, then you've got too much power. And so then the sail's a bit more upright. And then if it's choppy, it can be hard to navigate the chops in such a committed position. So it really depends on the condition. This kind of position is not the goal for every kind of condition. Did I say that right, or did I stutter in a weird way? This position is not right for every condition. So like if it's onshore or choppy or super windy, you're not going to be trying to lay it down. But I like this kind of technical discussion. You guys are so keen. I love to see it. Rasmus posted about this boom. And yeah, I saw one of these for the first time the other day. So I use Chinook booms. I'm happy with them. But I saw this boom, this X boom that Zenek had on the beach here. And he's a member of our group. So I was hoping that he would respond, which I don't think he did. Yeah, he's in our coaching group. He watches the live streams. So if you're in the chat, give us your review. But he's super happy with them. They have a cork grip. They're super stiff. And yeah, it was really interesting to look at. Again, I'm happy with my Chinook booms, but it was interesting to see this different kind of boom, this different boom concept. I think it's important to go with carbon. If you're on aluminum, carbon booms are a game changer. And one of the other things that Rasmus says is he likes the small grips, really small grips, like 21 is really small. I'm what is the, I don't know what the Chinook is. I'd have to look it up what it is. I would guess it's kind of like 24, but I'm not sure actually. Mark asks, is your sail touching the inside of your boom when fully powered? I answered, it depends, and so did most people. And it's not really a problem if it touches your boom. If there's a lot of sail spilling over the boom, that will cause more twist, but a little bit more twist, but it's not really a problem if the sail touches the boom. It's not something you really have to worry about. All right, we've got this video from Samuel, and let me turn off the sound. And actually, Samuel sent me these tacks so that I can go over them. So I can go over them in more detail. So let me just pull those up. Let me see if I can find them. All right, hold on. Give us a sec. All right, let's just give this a minute. All right, so Jeff says that degenerative changes on lumbar spine films are very common. Focus on core strength and flexibility. Give it time. Time is the best thing. It usually goes away. So that's good advice from Dr. Jeff. And like I said, I really recommend finding a good physio to help you with those stretches and exercises. All right, we're going to come back to the tacks in a second. Dave is saying that they landscape the entire area around the edge of Pozo. I have heard that, but I haven't been there. So here's a picture of the renovation. So I don't know what it's like, but I'm sure that it will still be good for windsurfing. Windsurfing is an important part of that town, and they do not want to make it inaccessible at Pozo. So here's a little video from Hans on the Devil's Tack, or I guess it's not a video. Sorry, it's just a picture. But that's sweet. Oops, what happened? I got kicked out of the group for some reason. All right, we got to go back in. So why is this doing this? So sailing Devil's Tack, which means the wind direction, one of the fastest and best ways to improve. So I highly, highly recommend it. I know some people stay away from sailing the tack that they're uncomfortable with, but it's always important to remember that feeling of discomfort, that uncomfortable feeling, is learning. That is learning. That is learning. I want to say that so many times because it's so hard to internalize that, but that feeling of discomfort is learning. If you're comfortable, you're not learning. If you're comfortable, you're doing something that you have already learned. But that feeling of discomfort, that frustration when you go and sail with a wind direction that you're not used to, that is the feeling of learning. And so you can embrace that feeling and embrace trying to get as good as you are on the other side, on your bad side. And it can be really fun to try and learn things that you already know how to do, and you have the opportunity to learn them a second time. And then when you go back to your good wind direction, you'll be even better. So Devil's Tack, one of the best ways to improve. All right, here's this watch from Dom. Oops, I didn't mean to click that. I can show you guys. So I've got my competition watch. I've got it in the other room, so I'll have to run out and grab it. But I can do that. All right, let's go through the tacks. So I hope that this works. We had a few issues with sharing the player. So let's see if we can make this work. I think it works. All right, so let's go through this. All right, so foot in front, coming around, and the nose sinks, and we crash. So, all right, let's go back, see what's going on here. Again, I'm going to be doing a tacking masterclass, which is going to take place in 3 separate seminars, which will be live seminars. So I'll be teaching the technique, and then there will be time for questions and video review. So watch out for that announcement. That will be in the Facebook group and everywhere. I'll put that everywhere. Okay, so what's going on here? So I like, Samuel, that you're grabbing the mast. One thing that I think you might find gives you more control is keeping this backhand behind the harness lines. And that will allow you to sheet in the sail more, which will give you more speed and allow you to carve more up into the wind. And then as you're going around, instead of just sort of letting go with this hand, the way I like to think of it is you give one last pull, one last sheet in, and that's doing a few different things. So when you do that one last pull, and that pull is actually in the same direction as the twist that your body is doing. So you're pulling and spinning. It's all the same. And then you let go with that back hand. And what that does is it powers up the sail a little bit, give you one little last burst of speed, push up into the wind. And it also pulls the sail over from this other side of the board to the old side, which gives you a little bit more space. So rather than just letting go like you're doing here, you want to pull that in and then release it. And it's like one motion because you're then want to be spinning with your body. So the footwork, so it's a little bit hard to see. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's like a little step with so this front foot is in front of the mast, and then this back foot comes to the mast, and then the front foot does this little step, just this tiny little step, and stays in the middle of the board. You want that foot, as soon as it comes up, to step between the foot straps. So you're never picking up that foot and putting it anywhere other than between the foot straps. So it's kind of like this. You've got your feet. Like, does that make sense? So, right, you're not doing small movements. So you get that foot between these foot straps. So you're not hanging out on the nose of the board. And this is something we can go over like really in depth, like in the course, in the tacking course, with diagrams and stuff. But basically you want to, you get that front foot hooked around the mast, and then you come heel to heel, like we've talked about before. And then that new back foot just steps back between the straps. It doesn't stay around there. All right, here's the next one. All right, so you make this one. Nice. So this is a make. That's solid. We celebrate our makes. The same, kind of the same thing about this hand. And then also with the feet, right? Like you do this little two-step and it works, but you want to get bigger steps. So that foot doesn't step here in front of the foot straps, it steps between these two foot straps. Yes, Ragnar. So Ragnar's asking about the video that we saw and about using the apparent wind in the fast tack. And so if you go around the sail a little bit earlier, then you can use the apparent wind kind of backwinding the sail. How I understand, at least how they were teaching it, kind of backwinding the sail to keep your speed through the move. And that's how you do like planing tacks. Like if you want to do a planing tack, then you need to have that backwind power pushing you through it. All right, so that was a good one, Samuel. Oh, here's on the other side. So this is fine. It's a little bit rushing with the hands. A little bit rushing. I'd like to see the movements a little bit smoother with the hands, but in general, that's not bad, and you're pretty close to making it. So Samuel, the biggest things are figuring out that footwork and getting it in sort of two steps. So you like the whole thing in two steps. So after you've got that foot hooked around, then you go heel to heel, and then that back foot comes between the two straps. And then getting that sheet in, that last sheet in before you go around. I think that'll make a big difference. And those are the two things that I would focus on, because you have a pretty good fundamental understanding of the tack. You know, even the ones that you're not making, you're still kind of making them wet. So those two things are what I would work on. And then there's maybe some other aspects once you get those two things to really fine tune on the tack. But those two is enough to concentrate on. One is enough. So those two things I think are good. Is that clear, Samuel? Does that make sense, what I'm saying? All right, I'm going to go back to the Facebook group. And we've got a back loop from Yusuf. Nice entry. I really like this entry. Going straight up, not rushing the rotation. I like it. I like it. Looking over the shoulder. It's good. And then just a little bit of over rotation. So really solid entry, Yusuf. I like this entry. I like that you're not rushing it. I like that you're going straight up. And then you start to rotate. And what you want to do is, instead of holding the sail sort of back towards the tail of the board, already at this point, you want to be pushing the sail towards the nose of the board. So you do this like kind of like windshield wiper move with your hands, where here the sail's kind of back, and then you pushing the sail forward toward the nose and sheeting in and pointing like kind of like bow and arrow with your front arm where you want to land and you're pulling in with the backhand, and that stops and slows down the rotation. So I would try that, but this is great for a 5th attempt. This is really solid. You're getting height, you're waiting, solid, good work. I can't really tell your angle upwind. The other mistake that people make commonly is that they don't go upwind enough on the takeoff, and then they have to really throw themselves to get the rotation, and then they end up over rotating. So maybe you could take off more upwind. It's hard to tell with the angles in this picture. It looks fine, but maybe try going a little bit more upwind. Looks fine, but you could try going a little bit more upwind. But really, the main thing is about pushing getting that like windshield wiper movement with the hands, where you're going from here to here, pushing, straightening your front arm, pushing the sail towards the nose of the board, and sheeting in. Solid. All right. And just like that, we are caught up. So if you guys want to hang out for just a second, I can get my competition watch and we can go over that. It's just in the other room, so it will take me less than a minute. Here. Oh, put this up. I'm going to go grab that watch because this is something you guys asked about before. So I'll grab the watch. We'll go over how it works, what the watch is. Again, this is the competition watch that I think is the best competition watch that exists. And then if you guys have any more coaching questions, ask them in the chat. And then after I go through the watch and answer those questions, I'm going to sign off. It's windy. See the trees moving. So I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. So let's take this off. All right. So anyway, if there's any coaching comments, ask them in the chat. This is the watch. So this is something from Decathlon. That's what it says on the back. And that's what it looks like on the front. Can you see that? So that says Kalenji, Kalenji. And I don't know what the model number is. 2484429, maybe, is the model number. It's waterproof up to 5 atmosphere. And it's pretty cheap. It's like 20 euros. I've used much more expensive watches, the sailing watches. They make these like watches specifically for racing sailboats, and those are fine. Those are pretty good, but this is better actually. So let me show you kind of just how it works, or how you'd set it up. So here, let me move my light so that you're not getting the glare. So we go how do I do this backwards? We go to timer, and then you have, so I'll show you how you set this up. So then you have a warm-up time. And so the warm-up time, if you're starting when the competition's starting and there's no warm-up or anything, then you can set this to 0. Or if there's a heat running, so like say there's, right, like a certain amount of like 12 minutes left in the current heat, then you put that 12 minutes And then, okay, that's fine. And then, try to do this backwards. And then this is how long you put the heat for. So the run time, right? And then the rest time. And so that's the heat break. And so normally it's 2 minutes. And then how many times you want this to repeat. And so I have it repeating 99 times. That means I just set this once. I have the time before the competition starts, the heat time, and the time between heats. And I start it, and then it just runs. It'll run the whole day. And so I always know whether it's the transition, how much time is left in the heat, what's going on. And so this is really a great tool if you're going to be doing any kind of windsurfing, wave sailing competition. So I'm super happy with this. Again, I'm not really sure the exact model number, but it's from Decathlon. It's not expensive, and I find it's better than any of the other watches. Like, I don't know, even the dedicated sailing watches. It's kind of big. Like I'm sensitive on my wrists because I feel like then it hits my hand. And so I wear it on my harness. And so I screw it in, or not screw it in. I like close it, clasp it on the harness, on the bar. And so then I can always see it and it's not bothering my wrists. All right. So that's the watch. And that concludes the coaching. I'll see you guys all next week, Sunday. I will announce the information about the Tacking masterclass sometime this week. That'll be on all my channels. All right, everyone.